Hi there, I'm Quatros Payon, and welcome to a tour of the Hedorah industrial platform and its accompanying shuttle, the Terrapin. This shuttle is a small ship capable of transporting up to 3 VIPs in the safety of a pressurized, airtight passenger compartment. It's networked to the Hedorah for full compatibility with the upper hangar, which will be demonstrated momentarily. As with all of my ships with any degree of complexity in the onboard subsystems, I've included an instruction panel laying out the basic controls. This is especially important for both the remote controls for the hangar and for the landing gear, which is attached via pistons and thus doesn't cycle with the P key. The primary pad on the port side of the Hedorah is the most obvious approach, with automated lights to facilitate landing, like so. However, we're not just some visitor. Remember, this shuttle is built to transport VIPs who don't want to deal with inconveniences like having to wear full spacesuits just to get out of their seats. So instead, we'll fly around to the starboard side and approach the dedicated hangar for the Terrapin. Pressing the 5 key sets the hangar to cycle into its open state. The vent inside will depressurize, and the door will open like so. And of course, since there are subgrids on the shuttle, maneuvering using gyroscopes is a little bouncy. There we go. Now once we're in position, we'll press 1 to attach the landing gear, and 6 to close the hangar, allowing our passengers to disembark without being exposed to hard vacuum. There we go. Now, once the hangar is pressurized, we can turn off the thrusters using these buttons, and we can open the passenger compartment. However, due to a bug in the current build of Space Engineers, before we can actually open the passenger compartment, we'll have to go into the terminal here and remove these 2 pistons from the group that controls the landing gear. This is a thing that has to be done every single time the world is loaded if you want to use the shuttle, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. That said, now that that is fixed, we can open the passenger compartment. And it gives us access to the passenger bay. We have seating for our 3 VIPs, internal controls for the loading ramp, a ramp for the pilot to check on his passengers, controls for the interior lights, and a button to toggle the emergency alert system. In addition to activating the blinking lights, it also turns on a beacon that's on the exterior, specifically to allow emergency services to locate the shuttle and perform a rescue if necessary. Since we don't have an emergency, we turn that off, and we'll go ahead and close the shuttle. And everything seals up nicely. It retracts back into its normal position. We'll turn off the landing lights, and we can proceed back into the Hedorah itself. So here on level 3, we have the primary office space. This is a great location for personnel to work on their individual projects before presenting them to the engineering team. One could also run a full sales staff out of here, making this ship a completely standalone operation. You've got individual desks for the whole crew, plus kitchen facilities so your staff don't have to run down to the galley every time they need a cup of coffee. Venturing down this stairwell to level 2, on our left is the conference room, where the engineering staff do the bulk of their work. There are a pair of screens useful for calculations and any ongoing projects, as well as a projector to display whatever's being worked on. Right now, of course, I have the Hedorah itself on display since this is the prototype. The onboard drones can be fully controlled from this room via the button panel on the left here, and this is particularly handy since the conference room offers a commanding view of the work area. Further down this corridor, we will find ourselves at the foreman's quarters. And we'll go ahead and turn on the overhead lights in here, and turn off the landing pad lights since we don't need those right now. This room is equipped with its own kitchen, armory, and latrine back here, as well as a bed and a cryopod. There are also screens giving real-time readouts of the drone's current status. The Level 2 corridor is lined with LCD screens advertising all of the corporations involved in the development of the Hedorah platform, but of course these can be repurposed by end users to display whatever they like. At the bottom of the stairwell lies the galley, an open-air kitchen and dining facility with seating for 8, the same capacity as the barracks here on Level 1. The barracks include a pair of latrines and 8 beds, along with 4 storage bays for equipment, and a common room lined with lockers. This space would make an excellent gym, entertainment room, or pretty much whatever you like. Through this door, and to the right, we find access to the bridge. This area is small, but sufficiently roomy, equipped with yet another standalone food prep space, so the helmsman never has to leave his post. On the starboard bulkhead are readouts of the ship's current speed and time to come to a complete stop, a full inventory display, and most importantly, instructions on how to deploy the Hedorah for mining operations. On the opposite side are screens showing the drone's current status, just like the ones in the foreman's quarters, and instructions on how to operate the primary control panel. The helmsman's seat is equipped with a radar screen, which tracks the positions of the mining drones relative to the Hedorah itself. I'd initially planned to use a 3D map here, but doing that effectively required either massive amounts of cameras for raycasting, which causes a lot of lag and still winds up with blind spots, or modded sensors. End users can add the modded sensors and swap the radar system over to LiDAR themselves. It's really straightforward, but for purposes of keeping this build fully vanilla, I've opted for the radar system instead. Pressing button 2 deploys the overhead info panel, giving detailed readouts of all pertinent information for the helmsman. Levels for the batteries, oxygen and hydrogen tanks, a more detailed inventory screen, ship diagnostics, damage reports, and graphs showing consumption and production of various consumables over time. The button at the bottom here is the setup trigger, which begins the process of setting up the drones at a new work site. Of course, we've already set up the drone system, so I don't have to go through the whole process here. Instead, we just have to push a few buttons. Pressing 4 deploys the drones for work. The status screen then shows the drone bay doors in blue to indicate they're open before the drone status monitor shows them as moving to job. The screen then shows that all of the drones have undocked, and we can watch the status monitor to see when they are all in position with no job. It's important to wait until the drones are fully deployed before actually starting the job. If you start it too early, the drills activate before they're in position, and it messes with their initial pathfinding. Alright, once the drones are all ready, you simply press 1 and the drones begin their work cycle. They'll return to charge and dump their loads when they're full. So the klaxon sounds, alerting everyone on the ship that the drones are active, since you don't want anyone inadvertently flying into one while moving around outside, and we can see the status screen show the jobs as active, as well as the drone's cargo levels and degree of job completion. Now let's head down to the drone bay itself. We'll retract the info screen, and head down to level 1. Now, this drone above the main landing pad serves multiple roles. It acts as a controller for the mining drones, its thrusters are parents for the block group that contains their thrusters, allowing the Hedorah to automatically turn them on when deploying and off when recalling. The primary screen also allows it to project a simple message. Usually, I set this to display the job site's current overall completion level, so when I get back to the ship after being away, I know exactly how much progress remains before I'll need to redeploy. The middle deck includes a hangar space just large enough for a pair of very small ships. I've got a couple Mongoose light assault craft docked here for demonstration. The design of this bay allows maintenance access from both above and below without blocking the path of foot traffic. At the end of this bay is the forward bulkhead door, which allows egress for the fighters. through there, and ladders to access the drone decks. As indicated on the signs here, drones 1 through 4 are assigned to the starboard decks, and 5 through 8 to the port. All decks are fully accessible on foot without a jetpack. Got ladders leading all the way up, and the docking ports are low enough to be within reach for maintenance and repairs. Each individual drone is equipped with a radar transponder so that it can be tracked on the screen we saw up on the bridge. Speaking of which, let's head back up there and check on our drone's progress. Alright, so our little friends have been at work for a minute or so now, and as you can see, they've begun collecting a respectable amount of materials. On average, the resources this system can extract and refine, if properly set up, will amount to around 200 metric tons of finished product per hour. The real beauty of the Hedorah is that it perfectly fills its role as the hub of a larger industrial operation. A small faction on a server could use it as their base and never need to expand. And while a solo player can operate the ship at full capacity, a group of players can make it the center of their gameplay, with fighter pilots, drone technicians, prospectors, and freighter pilots all supporting the operation of this one ship. And there you have it, my overview and walkthrough of my personal flagship, the Hedorah Industrial Platform, and its accompanying shuttle, the Terrapin. Thank you for watching. Happy engineering!